Welcome to Zenroku, the podcast where anime meets real life. Today's guest is someone with a passion for MMA, love for the classic anime, and truly an inspiring career. We dive into what makes him tick, how anime shaped his journey, and the lessons he learned along the way. If you're a fan of Voltron or fascinated by the world of professional MMA fighting commentary, you're in for a treat. So please sit back, relax, and let's get right into it with none other than Canada's very own Timmy B.
Representing the country, the whole country. Something like that.
Yeah.
What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Did I do you right?
Yeah,
intro?
man. What a good intro. Let me just tell you, man, as someone who I'm headed towards episode number 200. One of the things I pride myself on the Fight Insight podcast is doing a good intro to make their guests feel good, to make them feel like, that who the hell they are. And so thank you so much. No, it's great intro. Thank you.
No problem. So let's get right in there. First things first, Timmy. You mentioned you love Voltron from the 80s. What was about Voltron that spoke to both cultures of you growing up with? And if you could, what anime character for today would you be and why?
Oh man. So Voltron, I don't know, man. So I know your podcast goes out audio only as well. So I'm half Asian, half white, half Canadian. My dad was from Hong Kong, Chinese Portuguese. And so growing up, I was always I kind of had two cultures, you know what I mean? I was always kind of both. I grew up in a very multicultural area in Toronto. And I don't know, Voltron was that first cartoon as a kid. I was born in 1977, and Voltron was that kind of first cartoon that really hit cross culture. You could go to school and everybody had watched Voltron, but you knew it was an Asian thing. You knew it was an Asian cartoon. You didn't understand what it was. We didn't know the word anime back then. We just go oh, it's another cartoon. But I don't know, man. That was cool as heck, man. Those lions transforming and turning into that robot, and just everybody wanted it. Nobody had it. It was so expensive. But it was a really cool cartoon, man. It was just the different types of people, because I think is in that version, there was a fat guy, there was the skinny guy, there was the girl, right? It was one of the first cartoons that kind of had a little bit of everything, and it was kind of really cool to see, and everybody was able to kind of identify with one of the lions or one of the pilots and stuff like that, right? Yeah, man, it was just a cool cartoon. I remember that being the first real anime that everybody was watching, but me specifically. And dang it, if I still don't love that cartoon, man. When they redid, did you watch the one on Netflix, the Voltron? That cartoon was amazing, man. They did a good job with that cartoon. Maybe the last season could have been a little bit better, but the fact that they did the full story arc, and if your listeners have not watched Voltron, what was that one called? Defender of the Universe? Voltron, Legendary Defender, something like that. Just go on Netflix and search up Voltron. That is a good series, man. Very good. Underrated for sure.
Very sure. 100%. I love Voltron. That is classic Voltron. And another that's not anime, but I kind of consider it anime, is Thundercats.
Yeah.
Growing up on, oh man, dude. Thunder,
yeah. That's what's so funny when I was preparing for this podcast and you were asking me what's your favorite anime, I'm is Thundercats an anime? Because that kind of was. The other one I'd say that I was very close to saying was Avatar: The Last Airbender, as well as the second one, as well as Legend of Korra, because I don't know whether it's cultural appropriation or what the hell, but I mean, it's made in Korea, which I understand is in Japan, but it's made in Korea. When you look at the credits, even from the first series, it's all Korean people dealing with it. So yes, it was released on Nickelodeon, but dang, that's an amazing show too, man. I love that one.
100%. I was gonna say, it has been a lot of heated debate on Reddit. You know how Reddit with forums. People are crazy about if Avatar: The Last Airbender with Aang and Korra Is that considered anime? Is that considered American or Westernized cartoons? I said, man, whatever it is a wonderful piece of art.
It's incredible. Like the homage it pays to anime, even if you just want to say that, is enough that like nobody should be upset by that show. And speaking about getting into arguments with people on Reddit, I mean, dude, that's all I do all day is get into arguments with people about my takes on mixed martial arts all day, man. So, you know, I'm used to that. But yeah, no, Avatar, damn good show, man. And Legend of Korra, I think even better, maybe.
A little question, like when you said you get in Reddit arguments with people, what about like who's the greatest middleweight of all time?
No, I got into a lot of arguments lately. There's a girl named Kayla Harrison. Do you know her? Do you watch it all? Kayla Harrison is like a former.
I watch shows.
Okay.
Yes.
So Kayla Harrison is a former Olympic judo champion, American judo champion, who's coming on the scene now. She is jacked. Like when she comes to the press conferences, she's bigger than the dudes. Like she's like flexing and she's ripped. So on our podcast, we, you know, a lot of times on my show, we'll do a conspiracy of the week, right? And it's kind of just naturally come about because I always have terrible takes on things. Like I have very outside the lane takes on things. When she goes on there, she's come from another organization called the PFL, a smaller organization. Now she's finally in the UFC. All I said was that the UFC has very stringent anti-doping policies. Okay? like very tough anti-doping policies. For over 13 years now they've had it. They were with USADA, now they're with blah, 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 whatever. She comes from a less organization where it's not so well known what their anti-doping policy is. Not only that, she comes from the Olympics. Now, if you believe that the Olympics are clean, turn this podcast off right now. Like you're insane. Like you need help, right? Like the Olympics, come on, man. We all know there's a lot of stuff going on in the Olympics, right? And if you want to say, oh, you can be tested, or oh, Olympic athletes are tested and blah, blah, blah. Armstrong, what was his name? Lance Armstrong, the cyclist guy that got caught. He was tested 300 times or something like that in his career. So like you can pass things, like there's things way. Anyways, long story short, I made comments about Kayla saying that, you know, I'm not saying she's on anything or anything like that. And I would agree 1,000,000% she's probably not on anything now. But if you were on stuff for your whole career, right? I think that there's a medical advantage to you even after you get off of it. I've been reading some studies and stuff that say like if you've been on it, even when you go off, your body has muscle memory and blah blah. And here's the other thing: if you were on the stuff for a long time, during those years, you were able to train more. You were able to take less time off of injury recovery. You were blah blah blah, right? So there would be a whole bunch of benefits that even if you said physically, it just maybe mentally made you better, whatever. Now you switch into the UFC and you start smashing these girls that have been there for 13 years under this stringent policy. I don't know that that's really that fair. Anyways, people got really pissed off at that. And not only that, but Kayla Harrison started coming into my Instagram and telling me that I'm a jackass and that like I'm a horrible person. And I said, yo, obviously I'm posting little clips and stuff like that make it seem the worst. You know what I mean? Like, cause I'm looking for engagement. I never said, you know, she was. I'm just saying, hey, look, you are very big compared to everybody else. And if we're talking the top of the sport, you know what I mean? Like, why are you like that and nobody else is? It's like, can you imagine someone coming into the NBA being like 12 feet tall and just destroying everybody? And you're like, where did this guy come from? Like, how are we the best in the world? And suddenly there's this human being that's way better than everybody else that we've never, you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. But that said, there are genetic freaks. There are like people that are just crazy gifted and people that have crazy determination and focus that can do those kind of things. So, you know, maybe that is the case. I don't know. But anyways, that's something that I fight with people, or that's an example of how I'll fight with people, you know? So, yeah.
I see you. I don't think you said anything wrong. I mean, because like when you see freakish athletes like a LeBron or someone, LeBron you've seen from age 10 to 13 to 15, and you've seen the progression of him, grow into his frame, his body, right? And then you see like football players or soccer players, like what I'm saying, like Ronaldo, who was literally arguably the best soccer player ever. You've seen him from a child, his progression. And it's just like, and he's like leagues above everybody, but you see everybody progression, not someone who just, I'm not trying to insinuate like, she just kind of comes out almost like out of nowhere. And I understand she came from a
judo background, Olympic.
And also, what's it called? A federation or something like that. That wasn't stringent and probably is not as popularized. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't know.
Not everybody has their eye.
I don't know. I'm just saying. But those are the kind of things, right? But in mixed martial arts, man, there's always stuff to argue about. There's always things, like you said, like the greatest of all time, right? People want to argue about that. So that's something that we always argue about. Because here's the thing, man. If you're the greatest of all time, like even like you talk about LeBron or something, do you have to look at what they do outside the court? Does that play a factor to you? Because it does to me.
I would say yes and no. For if it leads to back to the court. What I mean by like Michael Jordan, everybody uses like saying he was a bad mofo. He used to gamble and he used to smoke cigars. And he used to talk crap to people off the court. And then when he get on the court, he tells them exactly, just like a Larry Bird. They were like, Bird was notorious for letting like, hey, I'm gonna post you up. You can't do nothing about it. And he'd tell them exactly what he's gonna do way before he does it. And everybody be like, we can't stop him. He's a bad white boy.
No, I'm not. No, yeah, no. I mean, like if you're okay. I mean, gambling, depending on how delinquent you are and stuff like that. Smoking cigars, that's not that bad. I'm talking like if you're like, getting caught for cocaine, or you're like, getting into car accidents and running away and like real legal stuff. Like to me, that plays a factor. That's a good argument. That's a good argument that the mixed martial arts community has all the time, is like whether or not your actions outside, if it's really bad, does that deteriorate from you being the greatest of all time in the sport? Like, is this the guy that we want to put up as saying he is our poster child? He's the greatest. And then you're like, okay, but this is the guy that like was, like stabbed some guy in a club, you're like, oh, okay, well, forget that. Don't worry about that part of him.
Don't worry about that. Yeah. So you probably have a lot of hot takes when it comes to John Jones.
Yeah. Obviously that's who I'm talking about. Yeah, dude, look, here's the thing too, because I'm Canadian, right? I'm Canadian. So like we're known to be very polite and we're known to be whatever. So to me, if I'm going to say that you are the best or you are whatever, I look at the wholesome photo of you, right? Like I look at like everything that encompasses who you are. If I want to say, are you the best 205-pounder fighter in the world? Sure, by all means, take that accolade, no problem. But when you say the greatest of all time, when you say like one thing that we always do is we talk about putting up the Mount Rushmore of MMA athletes. And I'm sure you guys do that with like anime, right? Like who's the Mount Rushmore of anime, right? I wouldn't put some guy up there who has a lot of serious like legal problems or like personal issues, right? Like that might be weird to like idolize that person for everybody.
100%, yeah.
Because think about it, like then kids are going to see it, right? And kids are going to go, who's that guy? And then they Google who he is and he's like, battered his wife for blah, blah, blah. Not that he did that, but I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't think so, man. Hold on. So.
Yeah. No, I totally feel you. Just going to get canceled.
Yeah.
So you said you started your podcast and it was tough because people often wanted you to fail, and obviously especially with the Reddit comments, how people are, especially on Instagram, and and that's a hard truth, right? So what are those moments like when you look at anime and just yourself and stuff you've been through that push you through those challenges that may inspire you to keep going?
Yeah, I think so. What you're commenting on is there's this question that you asked me about saying something like, "What did you learn in doing your podcast?" or something like that. And I've talked about this before. And I think this goes for anybody out there. You go and you start to do something. You open up your own business. You start a podcast. You start, selling cookies on the street. Whatever it is, right? Like whatever you want to do, and you start doing it for yourself. And you always think like, okay, I've got this passion and I want to do this. And man, my friends and family are going to support me. And that's going to be my initial startup base, right? That's who's going to help me. Who's going to help get the word out. That's who's going to buy my t-shirts and who's going to like start telling other people to buy the t-shirts. You know what I mean? And then you quickly realize people do not want you to succeed in life. Like, and I've talked about this with other people. So it's not just that I'm a terrible person and I don't have good friends and family. It's like, I've talked about other people and it's like, no, like that's kind of like the similar experience from people. And I think that's really hard, man. People, it can be very discouraging. And, for yourself, like you're on episode what now? What episode are you on your podcast?
Oh, for this interview, this is interview number 7.
Okay. So what I would say is stick with it, dude, because here's the thing. The stats are, and I'm sure is that most podcasts, like 95% of podcasts die by episode 10. And I think what happens, in my experience and from what I've seen is that it's just because it's very hard to get support. It's very hard to get people to buy into it. And you get very discouraged when the people around you that you thought would be there for you kind of aren't. And if anything, it's almost like they kind of don't want you to succeed, whether it's jealousy or whether it's like they're just like grumpy people or miserable, or it's just the way life is, right? The competitiveness of it.
No, you're not. And I've seen it in my own life, and I think not necessarily. So there are those individuals, right? I don't know percentage wise where they're like jealous of me, but I think a large majority, and I talk to certain people in my family, they just got their own things going on in life. And usually when they see you trying to better yourself, it's like a kick in the mouth, and it makes people like, oh man, this person trying to succeed and do better. Oh man, what am I doing in my own life? So not necessarily they get kind of jealous, but it's like kind of off-putting because it sounds the alarm in their own life. And when they're not meeting the metrics, they kind of fall back from you. Because it's easier to fall back from you and keep you at a distance so they don't have to deal with their inconsistencies.
Yeah, and look, we're getting deeply psychological, and we have no idea whether that's the truth, but that's like kind of like what it seems like sometimes. Like it's weird, but what I would say is, and then so how does anime reflect on that? Look, I think the big lesson that we learn even as kids, and this is like for all stories, but anime specifically, it's overcoming that obstacle. It's overcoming the odds. It's beating the odds. It's like facing your challenges head on and beating it. Whether it's, whatever anime you're watching, it's always about some hero overcoming the adversity that they're faced with. Oftentimes like an adversity they did not expect in their life growing up, right? And then they come upon it and now they've got to battle it and now they've got to beat it. That's the thing, man. Like anime teaches you that even that dorky little nerdy kid can do it, and so can you, like that's the lesson in life that we all need to take away from anime is that like, it's no matter how great the obstacle is ahead of you, no matter how difficult the task is, no matter how high that mountain is to climb, you can do it. You just got to put in the work and put in the effort, And so to me, that's like kind of the story I've learned, through my life or through doing this podcast and stuff like that. Right. It's like, oh shoot, like if I want to like keep doing this, I got to just do it for myself. And you'll find fans and you'll find friends and you'll find people that will support you, but it doesn't always come from the places you thought it would.
Yeah. And that is very, very true. People reached out. So me being on interview number 8, of course, I do other things with my podcast all the time. So that I'm on episode 30 for the other things that I do, and I also create shorts and different things like that. So you are 100% right. Man, it's been a wild ride since started last year, man. So and you being on episode Jeez.
192 just dropped last week.
Yeah.
I'll do a quick plug, man. Go look me up at Fight Insight Podcast. Go check it out. Fight Insight Podcast. We want to be your number 2 favorite podcast, right behind this one. We want to be the number 2 favorite podcast. Okay. If you're if you're watching an MMA podcast, I guarantee you ours is better than that one. You know, we got guests every week from around the world of combat sports, like UFC athletes, ONE FC athletes, judges, referees, lawyers. Like we cover all the stuff. It's a really cool show, Fight Insight Podcast. But yeah, I'm at episode 192. You know, I don't know when I'm going to stop, dude. I wanted to stop back at episode 10, and it just kept going. I don't know how to stop. Now I'm going to be hitting now. Once I'm so close to episode 200, I'm like, no, I'm getting to 200. That's for sure. You know, going to get to 200. Maybe I'll do 201 and then maybe stop there. I have no idea, but we'll see, man.
Hey, maybe the fans will be like, keep going.
Yeah, it's been fun, man. But I do it for myself. That's in all honesty. Like I do it for myself. Yeah. I do it so that I can meet cool people, that I can talk about the issues that I really like to talk about, and and just make some friends along the way, man.
And see, that's pretty cool. You know what I'm saying? You said, you built that career in MMA and podcasting. Like, how were you able to do such an incredible thing where you have judges on, you have MMA fighters come on, and they're willing to listen to your hot takes. They're willing to listen to your, I would say, feedback and scrutiny of the sport. Like, how did that all?
Man, I don't know, dude. It was during the podcast. It was during the pandemic. I trained martial arts, and then during the pandemic, everybody had to stop. So I need to do something. Need to do something in my life because we were all stuck inside. And so we started the podcast. It was just for fun, really. It was just for something to do. And then next thing you know, we had some UFC fighters say that they would come on. And I'm like, I've got like 6 listeners, right? And like 2 of them are my mom, but they were like, no, they want to come on, And then we would find like amateur fighters and stuff that are like, hey, I just want experience doing interviews. Like, I just want to be on a show so that I can get used to talking to people, so I can get used to engaging. I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of a cool angle too. And then the thing is like amateur fighters, they're just really young. So a lot of times their family is supporting them and stuff like that. So when we would have like a young fighter on, we would get more viewers from their family, which was cool. And then it just kept going. And like at this point now, I've made connections with so many different fighters, but a lot of like managers in the sport. So sometimes I'll get, fighter managers reaching out to me saying like, hey, I got this kid. And sometimes they're UFC fighters and sometimes they're just young kids, but they'll go like, hey, I've got this fighter that I want to go on your podcast. And it's not because my podcast is giving them great exposure. I think it's because it's just the experience, and it's just like, it's part of the process of becoming a professional athlete. And then, I'm really happy to say, like, I have had some people reach out that say like, hey, I want to talk about this issue because no one else is talking about it. So we had a girl come on, her name is Kelsey DeSantis, and she fought in PFL against Clarissa Shields. Do you know Clarissa Shields? She's like a very famous boxer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're not going to be happy about this, but this girl comes on my podcast and explains how the PFL totally screwed her over the whole fight to make her lose. And she explains how the PFL changes the weight limit at the very last minute, changes the rules, like she wasn't allowed to use elbows at the very last minute. Didn't put her, so they're there in Saudi Arabia or wherever they were, and they excluded her from all the media interviews like during that week. So she's just standing there like in the crowd, even though she's one of the fighters and her opponent is doing, like, she explains everything, and you're like, holy cow, like this is crazy. And so you don't hear that story anywhere. So
you don't.
Yeah. So like, it was kind of cool to be able to get some of those people that wanted to come out and share stories like that. Next week, I've got a girl who's one of the plaintiffs in the UFC antitrust lawsuit. There's this big lawsuit going on.
Oh, wow.
And so,
yes,
so there's a big lawsuit going around, and I finally found a person who was willing to come on my show and talk about it. And she's one of the plaintiffs. And I was like, okay, you're okay to come on and talk about this? And she goes, yeah, let's do it. I was like, oh shoot, okay. So I don't know how that's going to go because I don't know like how much trash she's going to talk or explain. That's because that's a weird issue too, right? Like for people that don't know, there's a whole bunch of fighters that are suing the UFC saying that we deserve more money at the time we fought, and that because you haven't had a monopoly on the sport, you weren't paying us. But obviously the argument is, but you signed a contract. You knew how much you were going to get paid. How can I go back and sue Coca-Cola for saying I wanted more vanilla in my vanilla Coke back when I was 10 years old? Like, it seems kind of weird, right? Like, so I don't know. But yeah, so things like that, man, it just keeps me going, keeps me excited, and yeah, having fun.
Yeah, that's and I see how that's very intriguing. I mean, geez Louise, man, because I saw the suit, and it's been out for a very long time. What? Couple of years.
I think the lawsuit's been like almost 10 years, maybe. Like, it's taken a long time for them to get this going. Yeah. Class action. Yeah.
100%. So I guess trying to get people to come on, more people come on to advocate the story and then also tell their parts. Of course, it gets more traction and better. So, okay, that's pretty cool. All right. That's what's up. So, you know what? We often see, like, with anime characters and different things, they have great mentors. Who was your great mentor, as you started this podcast journey?
Oh, man. I'll go outside a little bit of outside just my podcast, but I had a mentor just in my general life for my normal civilian career. Outside of podcasting and MMA commentating, I had a mentor. He was a guy that I knew worked in the industry that I was, and he was just a senior guy. And I got along well with him, met him at some sort of networking event, and then he kind of went to be my mentor. And what I'll say, the biggest thing that he told me is that he said, you have to think about your career, and this goes for your life, whatever, okay? But you have to think about your career as a triangle. And he says the peak can only be as high as your base is wide. And so what he said is that as you're sitting there in life or in your career and you're doing stuff, you have to do other things. You can't be so singularly focused because then your base is very thin. You got to go do other things. You got to play other sports. You got to meet other people. You got to engage in other activities, play other games, do other, whatever it is, watch other movies, listen to other music, just diversify and broaden yourself. And the more you do that and you widen that base, now you can achieve so much more. So your peak gets higher and higher in that triangle. And, that was a good lesson I learned from a mentor that is so incredibly valuable to me in like everything I do. You never pigeonhole yourself into one area, never pigeonhole yourself into just doing one specific thing. Really try and do more and more. And the more you can do that, the better you become as a person.
Man, yeah. You did not lie. Jeez. Yeah. I never thought of it like that because I always told, right? And go do other things, go have fun, really don't just try to work on, something yourself, but work on everything. Like, make sure you have fitness, you go run, make sure you have good friends, not a lot of friends, but just a handful of friends that you can talk to, and that does make sense.
Yeah.
A lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was a big one.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. The question. So, if you could mentor someone, what advice for your own journey that you would give to them on the way as you pass along?
So one thing I think that I've learned through doing the podcast was I think it was one of my first female guests ever. Her name is Ashley Evans Smith, Rebel Girl. Ashley Evans Smith. She's a UFC fighter, UFC, OG. She's a good looking girl. So if you're going to go look that up, Ashley Evans Smith, Rebel Girl. She came on the podcast and she said, closed mouths don't get fed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, do you know that? Do you know that saying?
Yeah, we used to say it all the time in Mayhem.
Oh, dang. Okay, dude, I've never I had never heard that before, man. Closed mouths don't get fed. And it was something that, to me, I was like, geez Louise, that makes so much sense. Right? And you're just like, yeah. And so for the listeners that don't understand what the hell I'm talking about, closed mouths don't get fed, meaning go ask for stuff. Stuff isn't just going to come to you while you just sit on your butt, right? You need to go out and ask for things, right? Don't be afraid to ask for things. What's the worst that happens? You get nothing. You were getting nothing anyways. So you're in no worse position. But I'll tell you, so the thing that I learned and the thing that I would teach someone is that closed mouths don't get fed. Anything you want, just go out and ask for it. Obviously do the work, obviously put yourself in a good position to receive it, but ask, man. Like, you would be so surprised at like the things that you can get when you just ask. And I'm not talking like financial or blah, 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 but just like, if you want help, ask for help and people will give you help. If you want to learn something, ask someone how to do something and they will teach you. You know, like, as it related to me as a podcast host, right? It was just like, ask, would you like to come on my show? Ask, you know, I had Dricus Duplessis, the champion, like one of the greatest people, Bobby King Green, who's my favorite UFC fighter of all time. He came on my show, and it's only because I kept asking people, do you know him? Can I get in contact? Right? You just got to ask. Right now, I'm commentating out on the East Coast of Canada for an organization called Fight League Atlantic. And so for I just passed my 1-year anniversary, but I've been like on almost every single one of their pay-per-views. I'm now commentating mixed martial arts. Do you understand? That's such a ridiculous dream. It's such a ridiculous dream that I never would have imagined that I would have been able to do. But through everything, I ended up meeting the owners there, Derek and John, and, you know, kind of just asking and saying like, hey, I'd really like to do it, man. I really think I could do a good job. I think I want to be a commentator. Like if I can do that. And they gave me an opportunity, and thank God I'm not terrible. And I've been doing it, man, you know, and it's like, no way. Do you understand? Like, there's zero place in my world where if I had sat on my butt, you know, playing Mario Kart, that nobody was calling you. No one's calling Timmy B to say, hey, can you be an MMA commentator? Even though that would be a dream in my mind, even though it's something I think I could do good at. You got to go out there and ask, man. So for all those listening, for all those watching, like, go, you know, if there's something that you want, start working towards it and then ask people how to do it, how to get there, or if you can get it.
No, but you're right. So in the military, we say that, especially in the Air Force, and the one we say a lot is the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, or we say it all the time. They're like, hey, squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you don't say nothing, you don't get nothing.
Yeah. No, that's 1,000,000. Yeah, that's 1,000,000%. Yep. I love it.
So we're gonna, I got 2 more questions for you. The first question, if you can give one piece of advice to someone who's trying to be successful based on their favorite anime character or your own life experience, what would
isn't that the question I just answered? That's the thing.
Oh, yeah. But also, like when I say like a piece of advice, like, you know, like wake up early. Some people say, at 5 a.m. is something good to do, you know, for themselves, or, you know, some people have certain things that they subscribe to that they think was the catalyst for them being successful.
Make the hard choices when it comes to relationships with friends, with partners, with whatever it is. Make the hard choice. Don't get stuck in like lousy friendships. Don't get stuck in lousy relationships. Get the hell out of there and just move on. There's so many good people in this world, man. You don't need to waste your time with lousy people. Just cut it off.
Gotcha.
See you later. That's the advice. Do it. You're just wasting time. You're wasting time. Yep.
Facts. And then the last question is like, if your life were an anime, what would be the title and why?
Jeez Louise, that's a good one. You know what? I'll go to what my walkout song would be if I ever fought. Okay, and I was too old when I started training and stuff like that, so I never fought. But My walkout song was by Maestro Fresh West, Canadian rapper, right? Let Your Backbone Slide. Okay, super famous. Maestro Fresh West, he has a song called Underestimated. And I think that would be the title. Underestimated, man. Like it's, I underestimated myself. Did I ever think that I'd be doing this stupid podcast for 200 episodes? No. Do you think I ever thought I'd be a commentator for Fight League Atlantic? No. Right. So underestimated, man. I think I think that would be the title.
Heck yeah. That's what's up. Well, thank you so very much, Timmy B. Check out Fight League Atlantic and Timmy B's podcast. For everyone listening, until next time, keep it fun and remember, don't forget to spread your wings and enjoy life to its fullest. All right, peace, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
No problem.